Welcome to the Have You Met You podcast. I'm your host, Sasha Pearl, the Energy Architect, and I guide soul-led women in building authentic six-figure businesses by aligning their identity, message, and branding. Let's get into it. So today I really want to talk about our shadow self. Oh my God, so fun! Just kidding, you hate it. It's fine. Anyways, I did a wonderful workshop at Wild, Well, and Wealthy, which is my local community in Bend, Oregon, this last Tuesday. And I created this beautiful deck and went over all of these not self themes from each of the open centers. And I really want to actually translate that into this podcast today because I think it's very valuable to create that awareness to then shift into your most authentic self. So if you haven't been here, if you haven't listened to any of the other episodes, I use human design as a tool to really dive deep into your unique energetic authenticity, because the more that we can actually understand who we are in the world, the more that we can have compassion and understanding for other people. We're all here to live out specific roles. So how do we actually work together that is efficient, that feels really, really good, so we can start creating higher vibrational services, products, and teams in the world? All I really care about, the reason I even show up here every week, is that I want you to feel fully expressed in the world. And me showing up as me fully expressed in the world is actually a mirror and a reflection to you as well. So, and I hope this just gives people the opportunity to show up in whatever form that they want and just start creating and talking about what impact it is that they want to share with the world. Because everyone is so deeply gifted and so beautiful. I just want everyone to know that. So I deeply believe that you cannot actually access your truest form of authenticity, right? Your highest frequency, your highest form of magnetism, without walking through the shadows, the darkness, the stuff that is actually holding you back underneath the surface, right? And so this episode, we are going to be talking through the not self themes of the open centers, but really activating it from a place of understanding of where the energetic frequency is based off of the Map of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins, and then also leaning it into some questioning. I will ask you questions of like, is this not self question coming up? And this is a question that you can actually align yourself in. So let's back it up a little bit. What is human design? Human design is the science of our aura. We all exist in an energetic, electromagnetic frequency in 7 feet in all directions of us, okay? So we're in constant relationship to everything that is seen and unseen, because everything holds energy, because everything is energy, and that is just science, right? And human design was a channeled form, so it is taking in the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system, and astrology to spit out this body graph chart. And this chart is the purest form of your energy in the world. So when we live through life, we become conditioned by society, by our family, by our friends, and anything else in between. And this is a roadmap back to your truest form of self. And that is what is so exciting to me, is that, there is a place for recognition outside of myself. This is the only system I've ever felt so fully seen in, and I'm so ecstatic that I get to share this with you guys today. So when we're looking at our body graph charts, which you can go to my website, and I will have the link actually down in the show notes as well, designtobehuman.com/HD-chart, to download your chart to see what you are in human design. There are 5 energy types. We have 5 different roles, and we're all here to play out different roles in this world. You can go check out the earlier episodes to dive deep into each of those energy types. So what we're going to really be focusing on are the centers today, though. And these centers are your unique gifting, essentially, and your unique consistent themes that will be lived out through your life. So anywhere in your chart, if you pull up your body graph chart, where it is white, the centers, aka the shapes, the triangles, the squares, the little diamond shape, if that is white, that means it's an open center or undefined. And this is places for conditioning, for you to really reflect back to your environments, to other people. This is where you can also have an immense amount of wisdom come from, right? And if you have these colored in, doesn't matter what color it is, it could be red, black, brown, pink, green, whatever it is, depending on the branding of the person that you get your human design chart from, that means that you are defined. And that means that you have consistent access to your energy in those centers. Super exciting. So that is why we look at those to really see where your gifting is. And then we look at the white centers to really see where your shadows live, because in order to really fully access your unique gifts, your consistent gifts in the world, you have to also understand what could be holding you back. What are those fears? What are those doubts? And what are the shadows that aren't allowing you to feel fully expressed in the world? So when I was walking people through this, because we all hold electromagnetic frequencies, I found Power versus Force, which is David R. Hawkins, this beautiful map of consciousness, okay? And if you guys haven't seen that, I'll also link that in the show notes. And in the map of consciousness, Hawkins proposes that every emotional and mental state carries a measurable energetic vibration. So lower states of consciousness are going to feel more forced, more survival related, more contracted, while higher states of expansiveness, higher states equal expansive, integrative, and connected to meaning or truth, right? So creating a higher frequency, authenticity, and magnetism for you to really attract the life that you want. So the lowest level that he brings up is at the level number 20, and that's at the state of shame. And it goes all the way up to between 700 and 1,000 to the sense of enlightenment. And so when we look at this chart from 20 to 1,000, it's really clear to me that we can actually use this chart to also see our energetic frequency when we are in our not self, the place of conditioning, misalignment, and just not functioning in the world in a way with ease and flow, versus our signature state, which is where we always want to try and strive to live in, where we are in alignment, magnetism, abundance, flow, everything feels really good and we're aligned to our unique energy types, right? And so I have brought in the map of consciousness into this workshop on Tuesday and into this podcast because it's a really great representation of what I mean when I say not self, right? And so when I looked at all the not selves of each of the energy types, which I'll talk about quickly here in a moment, they're all in the 100 to 150 range of energetic frequency. So when we are operating essentially from the place of anger and pride, we're not doing ourselves a service because the threshold is actually at 200, which is courage. This is the turning point where we start shifting into a higher frequency and start taking ownership and responsibility of the choices that we are creating in the world. So when we are looking at these not self themes, so I guess I'll hop into that now. The manifesting generators and the generators, their not self emotion is frustration, and that lives at between 100 and 150. Manifestors is anger, projectors is bitterness, and reflectors is disappointment, right? And so all of those live beneath the threshold of 200, okay? But when we talk about our signature state, manifestors actually have one of the highest frequencies that they can hold, which is peace, right? And that's over 500 or more. And then we have projectors, the feeling of success, monetary success, everything just comes to us. Reflectors, surprise, everything is a delight in your life because you are just consistently so open and so fluid with what is coming into your life that you get to be surprised by your every single day. And then we have manifesting generators and generators, and they're here to live a deeply satisfied life. So when I'm talking through this idea and this framework, the more that we can look through the shadows of our open centers and see where we are actually in our contracted, forceful version of ourselves, right, in our not self, that is where we can actually create the awareness and the openness to then take responsibility for, own, and then move through the energy, the emotions that we're holding, so then we can actually move to the threshold of, or past the threshold of courage, which is 200, right? And then we can move into our signature state. So when we can actually access our signature state in the world, in our day-to-day, in every moment, obviously we fluctuate and change all the time, but if we can know and create awareness around that meant to be in success, that energy of success every day where everything flows and happens for me, or I'm here to live a deeply satisfied life in this moment, how can I choose satisfaction versus frustration, right? So creating the awareness through this map of consciousness, through understanding your not self, through understanding your signature self, is actually going to really open up your awareness to then move through it. So that is what we're doing today. So we're going to go through the open centers. I'll give a brief description of what each center means, and then the not self that shows up and the signature state that the center is really meant to hold. Okay? And so when we are looking at if you even pulled up your human design chart now, that would be wonderful, so you can really understand what I'm talking about. But there's 9 different centers. They all have 9 different themes, and these centers are representative of the chakra system. We have 2 awareness centers that have come online, which is the G center and the ego, and we'll be talking through those, and those are obviously in addition to the other chakra system, the traditional chakra system. So when we have these open centers, we are more open to the conditioning. This is where the not self will mostly live in the majority of our charts. This is not saying, though, that these do not also live in your defined centers, because in the defined centers, the defined energetic centers, if you are in your not self of those centers, it's even going to feel a lot harder because it is your gifting to move into your signature state. So I want you to look at all centers holistically when I'm walking you through each of these. Move into a new identity. Say you're actually always in your not self, right? So you're not actually in alignment with what your life is here to show you and give you, because you can't see it. You're in such a low frequency that you can't even see all the opportunities that are around you every single day. You're not putting yourself in places where you can even create those opportunities even. So to move into the identity of your signature self, which honestly is no small feat. So when I say this, do not think that I mean this is going to be an easy process, right? Because we are looking and diving into deep shadow work here. So in order to create that identity, you must create a repeatable internal sequence for moving up the scale, or moving over in the scale. So the awareness is essentially what we're going over today. We're creating awareness around where your shadows live, where your not self lives, through the open centers in your human design chart, right? And then you must allow yourself to really own that emotion, that feeling is coming up in your body. It only takes 60 to 90 seconds to really move through that energetic emotion in your body, and instead of holding on to it, right? Because when we hold on to it, that is actually what's dropping us into the lower energetic frequency. And then you must release the attachment to the story of whatever that shadow is, take full responsibility for it, and then that is when you get to move up your ladder or move up the scale into your higher frequency. So understanding, if you are a generator, manifesting generator, you're in frustration, to move into satisfaction, create awareness around the conditioned self, the fear, the doubts, the shoulds. Allow yourself to feel into what is actually causing that frustration. Let it go, because it actually doesn't mean anything to you. The story that you're attaching it to does. Take full responsibility, and then choose to move closer and closer, 1% every day. Choose different things, different tasks to move you into the alignment of satisfaction, okay? And that's just one example of the generating type. Okay, so we're gonna start at the root center. So the root center is at the very bottom of the chart. So essentially we're gonna start from the bottom up, bottom left to right up, okay? And so let's start with the root center, okay? This root center is all about the pressure, the stress, and adrenaline of life. People who have this defined are usually do well under stressful situations. You're really good at prioritizing tasks and lists. You're very grounded, right? The not self-conditioning of this center is rushing to relieve the pressure. So whenever you are trying to work through things very, very fast to just get them off your to-do list because you feel the pressure of getting things done really fast, feeling the pressure of having to get it done right away, you're not setting a boundary actually with the amount of tasks that you have to do, or being present to how much time these tasks are actually going to take. If you are rushing through the task specifically in business, then you're not giving it the preciousness that it deserves, right? So if you're creating products and services from a place of low frequency and you're not self of just getting it done, people are going to feel what that feels like when you put it out into the world. And so it's not going to be recognized actually for all of its greatness, because it's going to have the energy of rushing to it, right? So the signature state here is going to be the calm productivity instead of stress. Give yourself enough time to complete the tasks. Lots of people, I have this open as well, but with a lot of defined gates in it, and I tend to wait until the last minute to rush to get things done. And then not only does it stress me out and burns out my entire system, But the work isn't as good if I were to have been able to like sleep on it and look at the problem again in all of its glory with fresh eyes, right? So the not self-awareness question here is, where are you hurrying just to escape the feeling of pressure? And an alignment question that you can ask yourself is, what would happen if you allowed yourself to move at your natural pace? And when we run our own businesses, what a gift it is that we actually get to build our businesses around our own pacing, right? So schedule more time than you think that you need on tasks in your calendar by calendar blocking, my favorite thing to do. Make your Google Calendar pretty because we love that. And just give yourself an extra 30 minutes, an extra hour for each task. You get to just simmer and have preciousness, have intimacy with whatever you are creating. Okay? And then moving up to the left is our spleen center. So it's like a triangle pointing to the right. And this rules our instincts, our fears, and our intuition. So when you have this defined, you know what is good for you or not. You have a good sense of what is healthy for you or not, and for others as well. When this is open, though, we have a tendency to hold on to the things for much, much longer than they need to be held on to. So there's really no boundaries. We actually don't have people who have this open don't have a clear sense of what is safe and what is not safe for them. People with this defined also have an inherent fear and deep access to their intuition. So this is one of the oldest centers that we have in our energetic system, and this was to keep us safe when we were in the hunting and gathering, right? When we are in our signature state of the spleen, we have safety, we have instinctive clarity, and we have healthy boundaries with all relationships that we have in our life. A question to ask your not self is, what are you holding on to that your body already knows isn't good for you? And the body is actually really important here because human design is really about our energetic body, our energetic aura, right? It's not coming from the mind. It's like, is our body contracting when we're with people or contracting when we're on client calls, or is our body open, expansive, elated to be on these calls? Really focus in on that, because then you can take it through the framework of the not self and the signature self. Where are you at actually on that line if you're being really honest with yourself? Now moving over to the right, we're moving into the sacral center. So this rules our desires, our life force energy, our sexuality. This is joy, this is big work energy. These are the doers of the world. Anyone who's a manifesting generator has this defined. And when you have this defined, you have consistent access to all of those things, consistent energy for work and satisfaction. A not self-conditioning, though, is not knowing when enough is enough. So, for example, if you're a non-energy being and you are working, but you're working like 10-hour days, you're overworking yourself, you're not getting enough rest, you're not doing your self-care, you're not filling up your cup, you're gonna burn out. And you're gonna be like, why am I so tired? Because you don't have the energy, consistent access to your energy to really amplify the work that you're doing, right? You're not gonna have, if you have the energy to do this work, it's either in alignment or you're using reserves from someone else or something else. So just being really aware when you are in someone else's energy and you have an open sacral that you are actually rested enough to take on this, to take on the outing or the business task, whatever that may be. So for your not self-awareness question is, where are you saying yes when your body feels really tired or resistant to it, right? And again, contraction or expansion is good here. And the alignment question here is, what lights up your energy when you imagine doing it? Because we want to go chase after those things that are really going to light up that sacral, that life force, that vitality, and those desires to really generate more life force here. And then we move over to the right further and we hit the solar plexus. And the solar plexus are our emotional centers. So when this is defined, this is someone who's going to have higher highs and lower lows, and is really going to be exuberant or in more of a lower state depending on whatever their wave is in. And some emotional waves have really intense waves, and some have pretty neutral high and lows in general. Obviously, we all have emotions, but if you have this defined, that means you are an emotional authority. And the not self and the open center of this is you're taking on the emotions of other people. You are a true empath. You're here to really amplify the emotions of other people. You have a deep understanding of emotions and a deep wisdom for it as well. The not self-conditioning, though, of this center is that, are you avoiding emotional truth or confrontation, right? And so, again, when we are looking at these open centers, the places of avoidance of emotional truth and confrontation, those are the shadows, those are the fears, those are the doubts that are actually holding us from feeling fully expressed in the world, right? So a not self-awareness question for you to ask is, what emotions or conversations are you avoiding right now? And an alignment question is, what truth would bring you peace if you allowed yourself to feel it fully? And you can also use satisfaction instead of peace, okay? And the signature state here is emotional honesty and clarity. Then we move up to the ego center. So only 30% of people have this defined. And when you have this defined, you have willpower, you know your inherent worth in the world, you can push through anything that you want. And if you have this defined with an open sacral, could be a signature of burnout, because yes, you can push through it, but that doesn't mean that you're meant to push through it because it's not aligned with your desires. If you have the sacral defined and your ego defined, then you can push through and you'll be fine, right? So the not self-conditioning of the ego center is trying to prove your worth or value. And I see this all the times, especially in soul-led women entrepreneurs who are building businesses. I'm going to continue to offer more, charge less to prove your worth, when actually you're inherently worthy, right? You don't need to seek outside evidence to know and inherently know that you are worthy, right? And that is a conditioned sense of the ego center. So when you are in your signature state of the ego center, you have deep self-trust and grounded confidence in who you are. So a not self-awareness question is, where are you pushing yourself just to prove that you are enough? And an alignment question here is, what would you choose if you didn't need to prove your worth? Then moving into the G center, which rules love, direction, identity. This is the magnetic monopole, right? So this is actually this monopole that attracts all this identity, love, and direction to people who have this defined. And when this is undefined, you're actually meant to be whoever you are meant to be it in whatever moment you're meant to be it, right? So you are like a true chameleon, because you are literally taking in the souls of other people around you with an open G center. So a not self-conditioning here is searching for love, identity, or direction, right? Because you as an open G center are not meant to have a fixed direction. You're actually meant to be pretty nonlinear with whatever comes your way. The more that you try to force yourself into a box, which society tells us that we need to, the more that you're going to really struggle and be in your not self of either frustration, disappointment, bitterness, or anger. Okay. And so the signature state here is a deep sense of being yourself, regardless of whatever environment that you're in. So the not self question here is, where are you trying to become someone in order to be loved? And then the alignment question here is, when do you feel most like yourself? And then we're moving up to the throat center. So this is obviously about communication, manifestation. Actually, all roads lead to the throat center here. So this is actually a very powerful center, especially if you have this defined, because you have consistent access to how you manifest and how you communicate. If you have this defined, you have a consistent way of speaking. You have a consistent way of manifesting, and depending on what gates you have, it's going to show you where your gifts are and how you communicate to your ideal clients. The not self conditioning here is a pressure to feel like you have to speak or act to gain attention. This is a signature of someone who's trying to overtalk, or someone who doesn't talk at all, or someone who inserts himself and no one's going to resonate with it because it wasn't invited in. Specifically, when you feel pressure to speak, right, about something, even if you don't really have, if it's coming from your soul, speak. If it's coming from an ego place, then don't. Right? And so the signature state here is authentic expression, words that feel natural rather than forced. The not self-awareness question is, when do you notice yourself talking or posting just to be seen? And then the alignment question here is, what do you naturally want to express when there's no pressure to be heard? Okay, heading into our last two centers. We have the Ajna center, which is at the very top. It's like an upside down triangle. This is all about beliefs and conceptualizing. So when you have a defined Ajna center, you have a consistent way of how you conceptualize and think through things. A to B, C to D, E to G, right? This is also someone who's going to be more opinionated and more hard-headed, and someone who's going to be harder to flip views because they have a deep belief in what they already know, right? And then someone who has an open ajna is going to be someone who is going to be really open to others' ideas, being able to really conceptualize things in an immense amount of different ways, and also be very open-minded to all sides of things. So the not self-conditioning of here is pressure to be certain or mentally fixed. So if you're constantly like, no, I'm certain, and you have an undefined ajna, that is actually you being not in alignment because you're trying to prove your certainty, right? And so the signature state here is mental flexibility, confidence without needing to be right. So the more that you're like, nope, I'm right, nope, I'm right, even if you're not, right? But it's just like something's running the show here, that is not in alignment with an open ajna center. So how can you look at where are you trying to prove your certainty when you don't really need to? A not self-awareness question here is, where do you feel like you need to prove that your perspective is right? And the alignment question here is, what happens when you allow yourself to explore ideas instead of defending them? And then for our last center, we have the crown center. And this is all about mental pressure and inspiration. Okay, so when you have this defined in your chart, you have consistent access to source because it sits right above your head here. You have access to divine inspiration, so your inspiration comes from within. If you have this open, you are going to be someone who loves to gain inspiration from the outside worlds, someone who again is very open to channeling things as well. It comes and goes, but can be very just like very intuitive, very open because of how open your head is, right? And so this not self-conditioning here too is to pressure to think about things that don't matter. So because you have so much coming in all the time, you have a harder time prioritizing what actually needs to be thought about to move the needle forward, right? And that's where a defined crown can come in and be like, oh, let's prioritize this, let's prioritize this, let's prioritize this, right? And so the gifting of the two together actually really amplify one another. So the signature state of the crown is mental inspiration without the overwhelm. Because it's a pressure center, so think about it, the crown is a pressure center, the root is a pressure center, they are both open. You're gonna be in a constant pressure cooker and are going to feel a lot of overwhelm and anxiety. But the more that you can really understand that that is your signature, you can give yourself enough space, right, in the root to rest and do things in your own natural rhythm. And then with the open crown, making sure that you are not being inundated by the news that's telling that is evil and dark, and you're not inundated by all of these people telling you what to do, because you really need that space and that perspective to move back into alignment for you. So the not self question here is, what problems are you trying to solve that may not actually be yours? And the alignment question is, what questions genuinely excite your curiosity rather than pressure your mind? So those are all the centers. Yay, we did it! But coming back now that you have the awareness of what the not self is, right? And that's what we focus on today. It's part 1 of the 5 in the sequence. Now you can allow yourself and admit to yourself what things are really showing up. I'd highly recommend journaling on these prompts and writing down the things that are coming to mind when you think about them. And then allowing yourself to just let it go. Let go of the attachment, let go of that story, so you can start moving into and taking responsibility for what was. Because you always get a choice to live in whatever magnetism that you want. But it's your mind that can hold you back, and that is just a conditioned state. And that's where human design comes back in, and is such a beautiful system to really start understanding about yourself, so you can take those shadows, fears, and doubts and alchemize them into light, because that is the wisdom that you then get to share. If you live in your story that is not serving you, you're never going to be able to get out of the loop to move forward into the actual wisdom and the story that you get to share with other people, because you got to walk that line. So that is it for this podcast today. Thank you so much for being here. So if you want to dive deeper into your human design, you can book a highly potent human session with me. It's a 60-minute human design reading with an intuitive card pull. We do a little chit chat so I can really understand a bit more about what you're really seeking advice on. And then I help you translate your chart into lived experiences. You can upload your chart into ChatGPT, but it's not going to do the work or give you the oral activation that is actually needed when you start understanding human design and your energetic authenticity in the world. If you want to dive deeper into your actual business guidance, you can book a signature state of business alignment accelerator with me or the Big Biz Energy program. And those are going to dive way deeper into the actual structures of your business, and Big Biz Energy is more about like how to get fully expressed into your business, as well as building the structures to actually allow yourself to be in your zone of genius. And that's all for me. So happy to be here. So happy I get to share this with you, and thank you for listening. Bye.